In a permission blockchain, it's much more attractive, much more appealing to enterprise and financial companies, also to governments, because many of these data that need to be stored are proprietary data. They're secure data. If a government is going to store, let's say, digital identity of its citizenry on blockchains, then that blockchain necessarily has to be permissioned, because not everybody, you have to keep the bad actors out. You can't allow people to access data that they're not qualified to access. So transactions processing is actually performed by a predefined list of entities. It's not something that every participant can do. So when we think about blockchain, Bitcoin happens to be the earliest legitimizing use case of blockchain technology. So it's something that's 8 or 9 years old now, and now it's worth in the tens of billions of dollars. And every day we seem to have hundreds of millions of US dollars in notional liquidity traded in Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a critical success, but it's merely one example, the first legitimizing, earliest example of a use case on a blockchain. So when we think about the ability to move value and transmit value from one place to another, we want to have some characteristics and attributes. We want that transaction to be secure. It also gives us the ability to move money across borders in a very low friction or frictionless manner. We don't need to go to our bank and send a SWIFT wire transfer or a telegraphic transfer. In that regard, we can come to the conclusion that that type of transaction is frictionless. And because it's frictionless, the cost component offers us a very big savings. We don't need to pay $25 or $35 or $40 or euro to send money. So let's think about how governments are reacting to blockchain. All around the world, governments over the past several years have started to embrace blockchain technology in a major way. And even just this year, there's been an acceleration of that approval level that governments have given to blockchain. We see at the top there, China. The Chinese government has essentially said that there will be a digital version of its national currency one day. India, at the top right, the Indian government is moving quickly to codify and legalize Bitcoin. Last year we saw a major initiative by Prime Minister Modi in India to change the composition, the complexion of currency in that country. And there's a major movement afoot in India to digitize its citizenry. Japan, as we see on the right, is one of the leading countries, as was talked about earlier, to adopt a Bitcoin and to facilitate trading on those types of exchanges. Canada had a project called Project Jasper to actually do a pilot program on one of the blockchains to see what the Canadian dollar would look like in a digital format. The UK, the Bank of England, is testing a coin called RS Coin. They've been doing that now for over a year. And the Bank of England is one of the leading central banks in the world. So it's very interesting to see them embrace that. In the European Union, they've been a little bit slower in terms of their adoption and the statements that they're making about Bitcoin. But more recently, over the past couple of months, we've seen the European Central Bank and the European Commission share some very supportive ideas about blockchain technology. And in the middle there, Poland, the Ministry of Digital Affairs decided last year that blockchain was something that was going to be very important to the Polish economy. And they've made some positive rulings about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency earlier this year. So you've probably seen this slide before. This is a slide we put together to talk about some of the use cases for blockchain and for cryptocurrency. So top right, we have digital currency, which is kind of self-explanatory to many of us. In the bottom right, we have record keeping. So as we said, whether it is an open blockchain or a permissioned blockchain, record keeping is something that is being done automatically. So people are putting the titles to their houses, to their cars, the deeds onto the blockchain so that there can be no dispute as to who owns an automobile or who owns a house. Securities, the financial community has invested billions and billions of dollars in blockchain technology to build better settlement systems, better securities trading systems, so that you can manage settlement risk and counterparty risk more efficiently. And in the top left, we have smart contracts. So smart contracts are essentially digital versions of normal contracts. Some of the characteristics include the fact that smart contracts are self-executing to a certain extent and are self-regulating to a certain extent. So, the formal definition, computer protocols intended to facilitate, verify, or enforce the negotiation or performance of a contract. One of the earliest, if not the earliest, commercial transaction that took place involving a smart contract took place between the United States and China. Last October, some cotton farmers in the state of Texas shipped 80 bales of cotton from the US to a port in China. There were two large banks, financial institutions, associated with this transaction. One was Wells Fargo, which is the largest retail bank in the United States, and one was Commonwealth Bank of Australia, CBA, which is the largest bank in Australia. The component of that transaction that was so-called smart was the fact that when the ship reached a certain geographical location in the Pacific Ocean, payment was automatically released. Payment was automatically affected from the Chinese side, the importing side, to the Texas side, the US side, the exporting side. That was done because the blockchain was programmed, was developed in that smart contract to automatically register the location of the ship. So when the ship reached a certain geographical location, as indicated by GPS coordinates, payment was released automatically. And that kind of represented this new paradigm shift towards being able to do these types of transactions digitally through smart contracts. In the past, the Texas side, the exporting side, would have to take a documentary letter of credit to its bank, draw down upon that credit facility to receive cash. So this was a very groundbreaking, precedent-setting transaction. So for those of us who have digital wallets, and those of us who are familiar with cryptocurrency, one question that my esteemed colleagues like to ask in some of these presentations that we give is, what happens when you die? What happens to your private key? What happens to your digital wallet? Does it sit there? Does it go with you to heaven or hell? Does it sit underneath your pillow? So one concept that we are working on is a solution to address this problem. It addresses the issue of digital inheritance. Now, not a lot of work has been done around the world with digital inheritance. A couple of the states in the United States, like Delaware, have started to look at the issue. But we thought about, wouldn't it be great if a smart contract could be written, could be developed to actually help effect succession from one person to another person when one person dies. Another idea, well, that's probably not right, but another idea for smart contracts for blockchain would be intellectual property registration. So if I'm an artist, I think that's Bono there, if I'm an artist, or I'm an inventor or a musician, and I want to control the digital rights, the distribution rights, the management rights, or even the actual ownership, I can place this content, this digital content, on a blockchain. And that will allow me to... So the blockchain can be used for managing those types of rights. Education. There are approximately 1.9 billion people, that's 1.9 billion people in this world who are currently studying at an academic institution at any age level. That's almost 25% of the global population. So one concept that we are working on is how to utilize blockchain to actually store academic records, academic transcripts. In many countries around the world, this is a major issue. So the addressable market for this type of educational solution that we want to develop on the blockchain can support, in aggregate, almost 2 billion people. So these are the types of things that proactive blockchain fintech companies are thinking about and executing successfully. This gentleman, you may recognize him from the Blockchain Africa video that we released back in March. So this gentleman is the chancellor of a university called Nadejda University in Uganda. So I visited there back in February and March, and we decided that this institution would work with us to develop this solution for education on the blockchain. Land title registration is a big one. There are 4 or 5 countries around the world which have taken the lead role in actually using blockchain for land title registration. One is Honduras, one is the country of Georgia, I think Sweden is also active. So land registration issues are a global problem. There's a lot of fraud, there's a lot of difficulty in conveying good, clean, clear title from buyer to seller. And that's where the blockchain can come into play. Because once title is passed from buyer to seller, that information becomes permanent on the blockchain, and there can be no dispute as to who the actual owner is. Thank you very much for your participation and attention today. Thank you.